Welcome again to another episode of the Minx Labrada Mysterious World podcast. Once again, I'll be your host, Minx Labrada. Join us, won't you, for a look at our mysterious world. Hey, what are we doing here? Okay, we are promoting Bitcoin. Technically a sponsor, as I am a holder. If you hold it, you should talk about it. If you don't, and you don't really have your own keys, you're not getting it. Having your own keys is the key to the decentralized economy that the central banking cartel that's probably responsible for every war that you've ever heard about on corporate news since you've been born. Okay? Serious bastards. Don't have one stake in allowing people to go die for them. They don't care at all. Oh, there is a stake. Go kill those other guys so they don't come and depose our power, basically. All right? Don't agree with Putin about half of what he said. Mostly he was talking about, oh, well, now we're going to have this new BRICS dollar or this new BRICS fiat currency, and it's going to usurp the dollar. And he just doesn't get it. I agree with him about some of the other stuff that, you know, our elite type people are super corrupt. The central banking cartel runs the United States of America, runs the EU, doesn't run Russia, is basically, a lot of people think that China, and one of the rumors, oh, China's going to take over the world one day. Bullshit, okay? I'm so tired of hearing that. I had a guy that I worked for that was an Air Force veteran that ran around and was the audiovisual production guy for the Obama administration. And he's a Republican. And he'd been around them so much, he told me that. He told me, oh yeah, one day China's going to take over. I was like, no, they're not. And one of the reasons they're not is their language is very constricting. All right? Yeah, all this is about Bitcoin, trust me. Their language is very constricting. Like every thing on there is a symbol, okay, like a kazoo. I don't even know if they have a word for kazoo. They probably just have to say kazoo because that's an American thing. Right? So the Chinese model of serfdom, basically wage slaves that they have to put suicide nets up for to keep people from killing themselves, famously at the Foxconn factory, maker of fine products such as Apple phones, iPhones. Years ago, it's pretty good stuff. I built a computer years ago with a Foxconn motherboard, and it worked great, for back in the day. Now, China, though, with their government corporate fascist down model, that's the wet dream of all the central banking cartels, hence why they're flooding the United States of America with what they think are going to be basically borderline wage slave workforce, okay? But it's not going to work for a lot of reasons. One of the things that is happening is people are waking up to what's been going on with the border. People are waking up to, and even the Latin families in Texas, when I lived in San Antonio, are first and foremost family and Catholicism, okay? And that's a pretty tight-knit set of morals to have. Granted, a lot of those families are a matriarchal type of situation where the men have given away their power over to the women, and if these women are watching The View, well, there's your answer, or whatever they're watching. They're not maybe using their discernment, okay? But every Latin man that I met in San Antonio, every one, in just casually, just, hey, how you doing, getting a conversation. I was drinking, so you have a beer, we're talking, whatever. Every one of them voted for Trump. Every one of them. And in different parts of the cities, all the way downtown, up kind of near where I used to live in, what would you call that area of San Antonio? The 10 o'clock position? I don't know. There was a mall near it. And then out away from San Antonio up near the Loop. No, what is it? The Horseshoe, which is technically kind of New Braunfels, but not New Braunfels, more kind of closer to the Canyon Lake area, and people float on rivers. But just happened to talk to some people. I'm gregarious. What can I say? Yeah, I got invited to hang out with some women too. So don't think I'm just they're talking to men. That's not my deal. Just friendly, just talkative, not gay. Thank you. Okay. Just want to clarify that in case anybody was wondering, why are you always just talking to men? Right? Or even sarcastically, right? So the reason that Bitcoin is superior is because they can't just keep printing it and inventing new ways to spend the money, and then we get out of the cycle of tax, build weapons, use weapons, lie, and then lie again about taxes, and then the whole cycle starts over and over and over. We've had it, okay? The entire deep state is an absolute phony in that they have no clue what they're doing. Oh, well, just make money, and then we'll be all part of this new Chinese we'll be part of this new communism thing here, and then I'll be really important. No, you won't. Because the second they get rid of us, they're coming for you next. All right? Understand this. The Georgia Guidestones were destroyed for a reason. The Georgia Guidestones stated that man should live on earth, quote unquote, in harmony of less than 500 million people. All right? Which sounds to me like the number of slaves the elites need to have their Hunger Games fantasy environment. Okay? There's another thing too. These people, a lot of them are purely satanic. Okay? That creep up there in Canada even has the bald head like Anton LaFay. And what's this creep for the WEF? Free will be a thing of the past. And he's got the stupid bald head. I'm sorry if you're naturally bald. Clint out there. I don't mean you, because I know you're Liberty Lockdown guy and a good guy. But I'm not voting for you, but I know you're a good guy. I might vote for you, just a protest vote, but probably not. Anyway, Clint Russell's running for vice president as a, was he? Libertarian candidate. And they're like strongly want to seal the border. Somehow libertarian movement got hijacked into, and someone's going to take, as I do my hand gesture, someone's going to take that and say he likes Hitler. Because I do my hand gesture, they're going to take one frame out of context. Like, look, he likes Hitler. He did the Heil Hitler. No! It's a hand gesture. I'm Italian. Piss off. So, one of the things that, and really, if Hitler was like a used car salesman, he would have been like, making commercials and, the other dealers are too high. That's, yeah. That would have happened. Anyway, that's an alternate universe joke. So, anyway. One of the things that these people are into is this Satanism type of, it's really is what it is. DC Comics covered this, and I do need to change my intro a bit to cover that I do cover pop culture, film, comics, TV. I've worked in the film industry. There's no way I can just completely detach myself from it. I'm definitely opinionated. I used to want to be a comic book artist. I got pretty good at drawing, and before I got into film, which probably really helped me with film, because before I even knew how to write a script, I would just do storyboards. and it all made sense, and then to go shoot the film, and I would come away with like a coherent story. And the people that I had some people hate me because it was easy for me. Let's put it that way. It happens. Isn't it funny how, like, if you're successful at something, you're going to get haters? Like Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first one. And you know, technically, I think I'm a Bitcoin maximalist, but I could have also sent that same amount of money to a guy in Japan to buy a house, okay? If that's what I was right. And there's no other way to do it that fast other than Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor covers this, talks about paintings and real estate and all the stuff that, like, if you store your value in painting and you want to ship it somewhere, well, now you need insurance. Okay, that's going to be like a $100,000 insurance policy to ship a painting, to insure it for several million. They just give it away, right? What else? A home, let's face it, 30 days at least to get your money out of a home, out of an asset. Also, the home's not portable. The home is, well, maybe it's a mobile home. That's not what I'm talking about. But real estate is a fixed place in a country with an address, where Bitcoin, if you got your 12 word keys inside, you can have that money anytime you have access to a phone. And all you got to do is get the wallet software, type in your 12 to 24 word key phrase, and then magically that account from that phone that died, hey, it's not on that phone, it's in the Bitcoin network forever. As long as you have the keys. Okay? But this is the kind of thing that is going to stop Satanism. That's right. Bitcoin is anti-Satanism because it's decentralized. It's free will. Okay, this thing in DC Comics that I was getting at, there was this thing called anti-life. And anti-life you'd think would be death, but it's not. Anti-life is imposed will over all living things. And there's some really good Warner Brothers movies right now on the streaming apparatus. And some of them are kind of these one-offs, almost like a what if, like the Flashpoint Paradox. I highly recommend, which Flash can like change time on Earth because he runs so fast. And there's another one where they had to fight Darkseid, who's the big, dark, evil epicenter of negativity. He's a real piece of crap. And they get to a certain point where they did fight him and they beat him, but everything was just so messed up that they knew they'd never get Earth and themselves back. Like, there were heroes left with like chunks taken out of them and replaced with robot parts because, yeah, it was messed up. And so that movie, like the way they dealt, I'm not going to give you the end. Anyway, they used some time travel in there to, yeah. But I think that's kind of what we're talking about here when we talk about this satanic power grab. What could be more satanic than saying, you know, the free will is going to be a thing of the past, baby? I 100% disagree. Totalitarian dictator jackasses will be a thing of the past. Mark my words, people are not going to put up with it. You think y'all have Europe cornered, but every day in the UK and in Germany and Holland, France is going to follow. And already Poland, what's going on? I forgot the name of the other country. Hungary, that just rejected the whole thing right off the bat. No, you're not sending your people that are going to cause trouble here. All right? This is why the Crusades were fought. We busted our butts to make sure that good Christian, Judeo-Christian people that believe in the rule of law and have respect for life and women and children are actually the ones in charge and actually the people that are your neighbors. All right? Now, I was in Iran when I was a kid. Was 12 years old. My dad had a contract over there. And so we got to tour Iran, and it was really amazing. I was lucky to see it. And I do have some slides from back then. Slides. I'm going to have to buy a slide scanner to get the images out to you. And I grabbed the projector and everything from my parents' house. So that's something I'll be going through. But I do believe we may have pictures on there of this ancient site where people would wash their carpets, the Persian rugs. And it's a really big deal there. And they come to this, it's like a spring and some rocks. And on the face of this cliff behind the spring was this wicked looking Babylonian frieze. And from what I understand, artillery was pounded into that cliff after the Ayatollah took over because they want to erase, who does that sound like? They want to erase any remnants of anything they don't want you to agree with. I don't know, was that Zoroastrianism? I don't know what that was. I don't know. What did they believe? Gilgamesh, the big conquer guy? All right, we believe whatever you say, dude. Please don't hit us with your 30-foot long whip and cut me in half or whatever was going on there. Must have been horrifying. But it was fascinating to see what's going on. It was basically like a snapshot of the ancient world. And the way you could tell it was a snapshot of the ancient world is there were 3 or 4 trails going to that pool where they washed their carpets. And each trail was about 1.5 feet, 2 foot deep into the rock. And the reason that those trails were so deep is people have been walking back and forth on those for so long that it ate into the rock. I saw that in Okinawa too, with fishermen. And there were trails on the coral. Like the Okinawa is pretty much just made of coral, which really, there's a lot of ancient stuff going on in Okinawa. Didn't believe some other Marines that told me they found a castle underwater. And I was like, whatever. But later on, I saw it with Graham Hancock on TV. Like, wow. So that was one of those wham, 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 wham kind of things. Like, damn, I could have seen the underwater castle firsthand. We did find some cool stuff on Okinawa, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, get you some Bitcoin. Start stacking sats, as they say. The goal of Bitcoin is to be $100 million per coin, and is what that will do is allow the economy to run in such a way where everyone is in abundance or has the potential to reach abundance, and we probably won't have enough money to fund terror and war. Most likely we won't. And really, when you think of war, it's been synthetic since the Federal Reserve has existed. Okay? Woodrow Wilson said that the worst thing he ever did in his life was pass the Federal Reserve Act. So, after that was passed in 1913, Christmas Eve, 1913, G. Edward Griffith, The Monster from Jekyll Island, covers that pretty well. Highly recommended book to kind of get you in the mindset of maybe why you should get some Bitcoin, or why your 401k that's all filled with fiat dollars, it's all backed by fiat dollars, why that might not be the best idea you've ever had in your life. Okay? Definitely want to do the Bitcoin. Definitely want to teach yourself how to self-custody, how to have your own 12 to 24 key phrase that will work across devices And if you memorize them, as someone said at the Bitcoin Con 2023, you become the Bitcoin itself. Okay? So that's that. So that's what we're here. That's what one of the things I really like to talk about, as well as pop culture. So let's go ahead and add those to why the Minx Labrada's Mysterious World podcast exists. Because let's face it, to most people, Bitcoin really is a mystery. They just call it crypto. They listen to all the propaganda. And, you know, we talk about trolls a little bit. Because I had a little thing with a troll today on another matter. And I'll get into that for a bit. But, you know, this troll just out of hand, and it's probably an AI. At this point, I'm convinced maybe people really are this stupid that say these stupid things. But I have to catch myself not to jump into it. And then we heard this FBI contractor that was revealing all the crap that they did to Alex Jones and how they like to entrap people and all this. He was proud of it. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. They were talking about how they have like little bots or people or agents that very specifically, did he say force them into action? I think he said force people into action. Meaning, and he admitted, they have a file on everybody. So they know what will trigger somebody, okay? Which is a really, really good piece of information to know. And it's interesting because I'm getting this podcast started a lot later than I normally do. And one of the reasons I did that is I wasted time arguing with a troll on Twitter over a Jimmy Corsetti post where, because I'm a Marine and Jimmy Corsetti was Army and he's younger than me, and I was in a unit that supported the Army Rangers, 82nd Airborne, 2nd 75th Rangers, 101st Airborne, and British Royal Marines. But so I've been around the Army a lot, and that was my first GS job when I worked for the GS. So I've fond, anyway, he doesn't need anyone to defend him. He's a good guy. He's a tough guy. He's a smart guy. But I got caught in that trap. And thank God I heard that FBI guy say on the same day, oh yeah, we put stuff out there, or we have bots out there that force you into action. And I think that happened to me today. And I got a little bit out of shape, ripping into a guy. Not too much, like it wasn't insulting. I let him do the insulting. But I got really pedantic with it. And I realized I wasted my time. And there's really no reason to do that other than to confirm that they're right and you're wrong, really. Anytime a troll spits out their little crapola, I've now made a commitment to myself not to respond, to just ignore it and let it ride. And eventually, like, some people I just unsubscribed from. And there's this one guy, Walter Bosley, who's like, I can't leave shit alone. And I have ignored him for a while. I unsubscribed from his channel. And I made one little tiny comment about, hey, you know, your subject matter didn't 100% match up with what you were talking about, so I turned it off. Okay? That's constructive criticism. He got really personal with it, and then recently on a video I'm about to show y'all explaining a Camp Lejeune. Maybe it wasn't, but somewhere on my channels, one of my videos from an old channel I used to do called the UFO, what was it called? The UFO Experience on YouTube, which, you know, whatever. But, and he put in the comment, you know, maybe try not being so pedantic and you'll have a happier life or something. And this is a guy that does like 1 to 2 hour podcasts. So, and there again, just ignore him. Now granted, I brought him up here, and if he wants to start, you know, if he wants to come on my show or wants to have me on his show, I don't think I would entertain it, because this guy used to be an FBI agent, or a CIA agent. I'm not sure. Hence, I don't believe that he's out. I think he's a professional, paid troll, and he's written some books, and he is brilliant. He's got some really good points, but it's another one of those situations where I think it's a pantomime where they're telling you everything and giving you nothing. Okay? He's really good at playing the investigative guy and getting into some really good knowledge. But why would he reach out to my channel that's been negated, essentially? I just haven't uploaded to it for years. And when I did, I didn't even show myself. I covered myself up with distortion because I just didn't want to. I don't want people to match those stories with my face. All right? Why would you go after somebody if, in fact, you're not some kind of an agent designed to try to troll people into wasting their time? All right? I did it. And then, I already unsubscribed from the guy. I don't know what else I need to do. Whatever. It doesn't bother me in so much that I know now after, it's funny how things just really line up sometimes. What is that called? Synchronicity or flow, maybe? That I had this little thing where I was kind of to defend Jimmy about, Jimmy put a video up about an animation about how these people made this really nice forensic animation showing how the pyramids were built using water and they floated stuff around and that's how they got the bricks all up there. And then Jimmy goes on to talk about, well, how are you going to move that much water that high and everything, and talked about that part in and of itself being as great or a greater feat than the pyramid building itself. And the guy used a term, debunked, and he used it incorrectly, meaning it's all been debunked, and then he, instead of he used it as the opposite, in that it was all done with water and everyone knows it, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's not the right way. And I got into being like his English teacher, and I realized I'm wasting my time when his response didn't really correlate to any of my arguments. It was completely, it went on the attack and all this, called me a genius, the sarcastic genius. And I responded again, then I just blocked him. I think going forward, especially since I'm a new podcast, my policy is if you troll, then I'm just going to block you. I don't have time either for bots, low IQ people that don't want to learn, or I guess that's it, right? Those are the two things. Or normies, basically. Normies that are going to die, pick that hill to die on to defend their mundane point. This podcast is not for the mundane. If you're mundane, go to your mundane 401k job tomorrow and go to your mundane life and just enjoy the mundane. This ain't for you. All right? That's all I'm going to say. Walter Bosley, maybe a little bit more nasty in how he came after me several weeks later, telling me, contradicting, and that's so arrogant too, to have a podcast where you flap your yapper for 1 or 2 hours like he does. I try to keep it an hour or less, which is fine. I'm not saying I couldn't go longer. I'm just saying if you're doing 2 hours of podcast and then turn around and tell another content creator, yeah, maybe don't be so pedantic, you'll be happier. Well, first of all, that's massively arrogant, saying that other people shouldn't be pedantic, but you make your living being pedantic. So get lost right there. So I think it's a good policy to just ignore these people. I've said all I'm going to say. Don't even try to reach out if you're a Bosley follower or Bosley troll or Bosley himself, or I don't even know the name of the other guy. Whoever you guys are, I don't care. I'm just going to either consider that you're either an agent or a bot. And one of the reasons I think that that's a good way to move forward and negate what they're saying. Granted, I do think Bosley says some cool shit, so maybe one day he will, and it was just, he's probably just maybe too proud, right? But I'm pretty sure I'm already done with him because, he just got a little mamsy-pamsy over the thing, and I'm like, dude, what are you talking about, like satanic dark people taking over souls when that had nothing to do with why I clicked right? Content is king, so you need to represent it with what you're talking about, not attack the person for trying to help you. And that's another thing too. I've had a lot of experience, and I'm 57 years old, so to have people either right around my age or younger than me try to school me about my perceptions, I'm here to share my perceptions with you and interact. There's a really interesting person on X that I've interacted with, Texas Maddie, TEXASMADDE, I believe. And this person sent me a lot of images about Gilgamesh and some different kind of ancient mystery type stuff, and seems to have a lot of knowledge. Somebody that I would want to interview to find out more. And even sent me some stuff. It's like, well, let's not talk about this yet, but here you go. Here's where we're kind of going with this. And I was like really blown away at that knowledge base. And also, I will say that there does seem to be a lot of evidence that supports the idea that there was massive technology in the ancient world that it is lost, which is another one of my themes about the Iraq war invasion and weapons of mass destruction. They weren't talking about anything modern. They were talking about something in the ancient world that was a WMD, perhaps something similar to the Ark of the Covenant that was a thing of fire, according to Graham Hancock, is what was written by the Ethiopian Christians that housed that thing, Coptic Christians in Ethiopia. A little hard to imagine, but it all exists. So anyway, all that to say this: buy Bitcoin and don't care what other people think about you. Don't ask your mom or daddy or friends that don't have it, hey, you think I should buy Bitcoin? No, it's a scam. Every one of them is going to say that. Every one of them. Because they haven't done their due diligence. They haven't done their research. I've done some research. I bought it even before I learned it was a freedom movement. And after I learned it was a freedom movement, I got excited because I thought, like, this is exactly what I've been wanting to do my entire life. Make the world a better place by basically taking down the man. All right, I'm the man. No, I'm not the man. The man is, well, I guess that FBI guy that was going after Alex Jones and bragging about how they kind of entrap people. Or now we just got the Sandy Hook people to sue them, and we want to demonetize people and make their life a hell, and just so mamsy-pamsy and wimpy and satanic. Little bitches, each and every one of them, right? So we know that these rent-sinking pigs that print our dollar are afraid of Bitcoin because it's decentralized and they can't figure it out. And we're going to do a central banking digital currency. Well, you can't force people to use it. And really, if you do that, really it's all that's going to happen is there's going to be exchanges where people convert it to other crypto and then you're screwed. But either way, when you look at the Bitcoin world, there are people that are like the get rich quick people, and there's other people that are like, well, wait a minute, this is to change the world because we're really sick of people lying to us and then taking our money to build bombs and weapons and kill them in our name. All right? I'm not going to go so far as to say we don't need aircraft carriers or the military. I think that's wrong. Just do your recent history of October 7th to let you know that that's not happening. All those guys said that before October 7th. And they all also say, oh yeah, the hypersonic missile has completely made the aircraft carrier obsolete. No, it's not. All right? If that's true, how have our aircraft carriers not gotten wasted yet? Because they wanted to do. We are at war. I don't know if y'all know that. Doesn't seem like it in the United States, but yeah, there is a war going on. And we're in it. It sucks. It sucks, but it's true. And if we did have Bitcoin as the chief economy, there's also governance involved, which I'm not 100% sure how that works, and I don't like mob rule, but I will say it might be a quicker path to the Smedley-Butler doctrine, which would be only use the military to patrol our shores at a certain distance. He said 200 miles. That was before the whole over the horizon thing, and now we have satellites, so that's fine. But in our Constitution, it says that we should keep a Navy, which also means Marine Corps, and raise an army in case of war. So right there, you're saving a bunch of money if you make your Army reservists and make the Air Force reservists. And maybe you need full-time Air Force for some of the stuff they do. You probably want full-time guys monitoring those nukes and then subsequently dismantling it once they realize, hey, Bitcoin's made the world peaceful. We don't have to have nukes. But the sad thing is we still have savages in the United States of America. Well, they are in the United States of America on planet Earth. All right? And who knows how many have come to the United States of America since our border went porous. And if you think that what happened on October 7th can't happen in the United States, most likely it won't, but there is a possibility because there's so many criminals, basically, they've let over. Cartel, there's apparently a lot of Chinese nationals that were all military-aged men. That could be a special forces unit. You don't know that. Who knows who they've let in? And hats off to that woke, trans-looking person there's a viral video going around. I think it originated on TikTok. And everything she was saying was like supposed to be, oh no, this is why you don't want to vote for Trump. But it was like an endorsement ad for Trump. He's going to track down all the illegals and get rid of them. And she's saying that like that was a negative. It's like, no, I think that would be good. All right. That was my Bitcoin rant in D minor. Let's move on, shall we? I want to talk about a UFO sighting that I had, the second major UFO sighting. And this is the channel where Walter Bosley, let's go ahead and just see what he said here. Why would he pick on me? I'm a nobody. Hollow Earth. This is him responding to me, maybe. Was that his video? That was his video, maybe. Anyway, whatever. But we kind of went back and forth, and he ends with, try not being so pedantic, you'll live a happier life, which is just so arrogant coming from a podcaster. And he didn't know that I hadn't started a podcast then. But still, Like I'm not supposed to be pedantic, but somehow you get a pass? Come on. Just so much ego, so ridiculous. I used to really like listening to him. I thought he had a different perspective, but I guess he's just a bully and a troll. And so this is how I used to hide my face. This is this video, UFO experience, disclosure from Camp Lejeune, mass sighting. And I got a total of, 3 thumbs up and not much going on at all with this one. YouTube algorithm, what are you going to do? So, and I hid my voice too. Let me go ahead and axe that, and I'll narrate that voice since I did change my voice there. And this is when I lived in Colorado, and I thought I could self-medicate and also find money to make movies with all the new marijuana money. And I never met anybody that ran a marijuana farm, but I did get mightily stoned. So stoned, in fact, I realized, I should just leave because I want to have accomplished goals and no regret. And I realized I was so addicted to that medical grade cannabis that the only way to get away was to get away. And that's what I did. So here you go. Let's go ahead and... All right, now here I'm explaining it, and the story is I was in my school phase of the Marines, meaning you go through boot camp and then they send you to a school. Now, I scored really high on the ASVAB. However, I was hanging around with people that I probably should not have been hanging around with at high school, and I ended up maybe a couple weeks before I left to go to camp, Paris Island. Not camp anything, Paris Island. I ended up getting arrested and spending a night in jail, and actually got the charges dropped. It was a situation where we were doing whippets in a grocery store, and I'm walking out, and then they busted us for shoplifting. And what I did was, we did spend the night in jail. The next day I went to that grocery store and I said, hey, I'm a pretty good artist. If I do some art for you, will you drop the charges? I'm getting ready to go in the Marines. And the guy went, yeah. So we did that. And so I made his poster and made my amends. And then when I went to the recruit depot where you take your oath and then they send you off to boot camp, take your oath with a bunch of other service people. Who knows where they were going, right? But Marines, if you're on east side of the Mississippi, you're going to Paris Island. So I broke during that MCRD thing, thinking, oh man, somehow they're going to find out I got arrested. And I spilled the beans, and they're like, you dumbass. Well, they didn't say dumbass. They're like, where are you going in open contract? And I didn't know any better. So I did. Luckily ended up in Motor T school because I scored really high on the mechanical. And I'm sure I told the story already about getting the special test and the guy with the scar on his face looking at me going, you don't want to score high on this. Until I got to the mechanical part, I was listening to him. And I was too much pride, and I'm like, screw this, I'm very mechanical. And right? Got high enough on that to where I didn't most open contract guys become infantry. But I scored high enough to where I was, get this guy around machines. He knows machines. Great. So that's what we did. So this is like a animation or image of what we are looking at as we are standing at attention. 6 platoons of Marines, each platoon a different week in the school. It was a 6-week school to learn to drive trucks, big 5-ton trucks. Turned out to be a great job. A lot of Marines make fun of you for being what they call motor T. I look back at it now, especially when you see guys out there on YouTube like Diesel Dave. YouTube is still pretty good for guys like that. There's some really fun adventure channels on there. But for this kind of stuff, they're just way too censorious. They want everybody to be like a, happy brand guy. Like nothing's wrong with the world. Just, surf, jump motorcycles. Anything more controversial than that is met with harsh restrictions. So why even mess with it? That's why we're on Rumble. And why I'm showing an old video I made on YouTube on Rumble. So this is us looking, I guess, east is where we'd be looking, because beyond the trees, a little further out, and you'd hit the Atlantic Ocean. So whatever this thing was, it was coming really fast from the south, heading north. And as it was moving, there were like stuff dropping off it. Okay, I didn't see it bounce, so I don't think it was something bouncing on the atmosphere. Maybe it was at such an angle where it was burning. I don't know. But everyone was watching it. You couldn't miss it. It was massive for like a light. You know when you see a light in the sky and it's an airplane, it's a tiny little light? Well, this thing was about 1/8 of the size of the moon. So it's a little hard to miss. It's pretty big. And there were sparks flying from it. And then, it's moving and we're watching it. It did this hard 45 degree angle. And it's getting ready to, it just zipped up out of, it just went right into space, I guess. And when it left behind it this huge sphere of gas just expanded, right? And it's like it left it behind on purpose. And as it happened, 6 platoons of Marines just went, oh. You know that awe, like that, literally vocalizing an awe. And you're never going to forget anything like that when you're doing that with 6 platoons of Marines. All right? And let's see. And then it got bigger. Oh, I'm still talking about it. That was as much as I did. Did I add more to it? Oh, yeah. Here we go. All right. So then is what happened was this thing got, it expanded to a pretty massive size. And then like another sphere came out of it. And I started noticing images on each sphere. What technology can do that? That was like some kind of high-tech skywriting. I still don't know what that is. At this point, it's pretty much taken up your whole peripheral and everything is how big it was. It's massive in the sky. And then that's kind of what we ended up with. And I noticed like there are these 2 images on it. And even back then I thought like, well, did they just say hello? And they're showing one world reaching out to another world to shake a hand. And these aren't 100% accurate because I didn't have a camera and I didn't 100% commit it to memory. But I do remember when I saw the cover of the Led Zeppelin box set that had a crop circle on it, that I just stopped and got a chill up my spine and remembered this. And that was the first time I ever saw a crop circle. And of course, later on that got kind of famous. But the same symbols in some of those, what I feel, some of the authentic ones, there's also fake ones, but the authentic ones have these weird symbols. And I'm wondering if whatever this is, instead of crop writing, it's some kind of sky writing. And I've seen one other small, tiny video of some people seeing a big orange ball somewhere around Bahrain or Qatar, something like that, maybe UAB. So I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I'm just telling you how I interpreted it. And it just still blows my mind. Also, it's one of those things that made me really start to question the whole UFOs on TV thing, the whole, when we come back, and then there's 5 minutes of what you just saw, and then you get like one new thing, and it wasn't really as great as they kind of made it sound. And then the people talking and like, oh yeah, and we saw this really big alien, and they make their eyes big to try to make the point. Where at that point I'm like rolling my eyes. It's like maybe not as absurd as Corey Good. And I'm not saying there aren't real people out there with real experiences that have had real trauma and real things to talk about. Because, clearly I have. But what I'm saying is they definitely are embellishing a lot with the TV thing. I'm not saying all the people on TV are, but I'm saying TV does seem to like some bullshit, right? If you're going to be talking about the aliens and UFOs. Let's see if I get along a little further on this one. No, the rest of it's, well, yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But no, the rest of it is, just that was as much as I was willing to show my face back then, which is not. All right. So anyway, and I was wrong about Bosley finding my channel and coming after me. He did not. So, I think it's just good to, but he made that comment like 21 hours ago. So you just can't let stuff die. I was willing to let it die. That was like 2 weeks ago let's see when that was ago. That was 2 weeks ago. Dude, let it ride, man. What was he keeping a journal? Day 9. That son of a bitch. I mean, you got it. And that's my new policy. I'm not going to respond to the trolls anymore at all. It's just such a waste of time. So let's go ahead and talk about the screw sticker. That was my Camp Lejeune encounter. And of course, you know what they told us. Oh, yeah, it was a satellite experiment. Oh, I forgot the best part of the story. Oops. Let's get back to that. Best part of the story. Okay. I was in the Marines 4 years, 2 months, 12 hours, and 15 minutes. Trust me, it took 15 minutes to get from our barracks to the front gate. And the Marine Corps is such an intense experience, I didn't consider myself out until I was off Camp Lejeune. So that should tell you something right there. But I was in 2nd ANGLICO, really lucky. It was what constitutes as a special forces unit, even though technically the Marine Corps doesn't call their special forces special units, like special units. They don't call them special forces the way the Army does. But it was good. And if you look on a special forces website, the way they break it down, ANGLICO's like the, one of the top, like if SOCOM would be the nucleus of special forces in the United States, that would include SEALs, Green Berets, AFSOC, Special Recon, and MARSOC, Marine Special Operations Command. Those would be your nucleus. And then your outer tier people, right? ANGLICO, our job was to support Army Rangers, which are in that molecule of Spec Ops. To give you a brief idea, Marines' job is to take a beach or a port. The Rangers specialize in taking airports. Okay? Very important in war theater. So is what the Marines do is liaison, generally 4 Marines, called a observation post, and they will go and check out that airport that you want to take before the Rangers show up, and they'll figure out where, and they got all the recon and stuff too, from probably Marine Recon, and they will make a fire mission so they can take out all the machine guns and all the anti-aircraft, whatever they need to do to make sure the Rangers can get in there and then just be boots on the ground versus boots on the ground, not all the crazy stuff that they have there to defend that airport. So that's what ANGLICO did, and I got to go to Army Jump School, and it was very special. They call it Special Forces. It was very special. It was fun. ANGLICO was fun. Stands for Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company. And let me tell you, the liaison part, some of these guys were like game show hosts. It was fun. So I got to work one day at 2nd ANGLICO, and everybody had seen a UFO. And when I asked, boy, I wish I could remember that guy's name, Sergeant something. They're all Sergeant something, not all of them, but this one guy. But he was really interesting. He was a bit of a hard ass sometimes, which kind of helped support his story, because he's a very practical Marine, and he was married and had children, lived off base. So he had this work ethic type of thing about him, where he treated the Marine Corps like a job, and if anybody whined about it, he would get right down to the practical and say, well, what are you going to do? Go out and work at Subway and not have it right? I mean, he would do stuff like that, which I later learned to respect. At first, it was very annoying, but anyway, he described to me a UFO, exactly what I'd seen 4 years earlier. I'd seen that big gas globe thing. I saw that when I was in the Marines, like maybe 4 months. And then here again, other Marines had seen the same thing in basically the same area 4 years later. So that to me is a corroboration from what you would call a trained observer. So ANGLICO, we used to get the deck of cards that had NATO and Warsaw Pact aircraft on it by profile and forgot what the front's called, and dorsal. And then that way, you play cards with them, and you get all these shapes in your heads. Of course, when you're in ANGLICO, you're calling in close air support enough, and there's so much aircraft around you. After a while, you start to hear. You don't even have to look up. You know what's in the sky. And that is a perishable skill, by the way, because when I worked at NAS Pensacola, I got fooled a lot. Although I did hear something weird once, and I'm like, man, I bet that's an Osprey. And I looked up, yeah, it was an Osprey. They have the tilt rotor, and they're weird. I think they're ungrounded again. Are they ungrounded? Anyway, they were grounded for a while because sometimes they don't work. Anyway, but to me, that really cemented that sighting home, was that a guy that had called in more fire missions than I could even think about, right? These are like ANGLICO guys that have been in it a while, a real radio operator, Marine radio operator. ANGLICO is kind of designed around a radio operator, because in the old school days, you'd get a map, right? And that would be your area, and you have fire missions, and you call in the different grid coordinates, right? And then you're looking with binoculars, and you're adjusting fire until you get them, and then, oh man, I've got a sniper down in that blockhouse. We need, right? Well, you don't, if you're calling in like artillery or a destroyer, they might have the right target, but then they have to do declination, which is the moving up and down, and then the way they do that, and goes back and forth, and then you call in fire for effect, and you take out that sniper, right? Just how it's done. And it's all different now. Nothing I just said was classified, because now it's all done. They've got these militarized smart pads, and it's setting up satellite dishes. It's totally different. I was in analog ANGLICO, and actually got to send a text message at recon school. And I remember them saying, it looked like a speak and spell. And I remember them saying, oh yeah, this is a fast burst transmission. It's really secure. And well, that's what text messaging is now. It's fast burst transmission. It's Okay, and which is why it works. Maybe if you can't get a regular signal, right? So, once again, military technology trickling down to your world. But anyway, I think that's a fantastic story. And again, another one of those stories for me or experiences that made me question some of the big cases that got a lot of press and made a lot of TV. Because I think that sighting has a lot more witnesses. Also, witnesses over time. Granted, I've reached out to Marines a lot of times and have never got anybody to help me corroborate that story. Once again, I am Minx Labrada. This is our mysterious world. It's another great day in America. Just got to keep moving forward, not putting up with the crap. Every day, more and more knowledge is leaking out about the deceit of those who tried to destroy America, which makes it another great day in America. Thanks for your time.